it's a pleasure to see all of you this evening, those here in person and those joining online, as we mark a very important day in our secular calendar, July 4th. It's one of those holidays, as I mentioned this morning at Minyan, where despite the challenges that we experience today in this country with anti-Semitism, we are blessed to live in the most amazing place for Jews in our entire history, outside of when we've lived in the land of Israel on our own, even today. So, despite the challenges, we have a lot to be thankful for and are so blessed to live in this country and call it our home. So I hope everyone is, at some point today, is able to reflect upon July 4th and the independence of our country and just how beautiful it is that we're here. But I'm not going to talk about July 4th this evening, because I just returned, as many of you know, from 2 weeks at Camp Ramah Durham, located in the mountains of North Georgia. And yes, the setting is absolutely beautiful, and our children and many others from our congregation spend a month in this incredible setting. Ramah, if you're not familiar, is the conservative movement's camping program, located at many different locations throughout the country, but Durham, meaning south, serves the southeast, including Texas through Florida and the Carolinas, located at its campus 2 hours northeast of Atlanta. The setting is picturesque. It's really in the middle of nowhere. But during my time at camp, I had the opportunity to teach a session to the senior staff a few Shabbats ago. And the question that we were asked to explore was holy places. And I asked them the question, what makes a place holy? And we discussed in that setting that rarely is ever a physical location inherently holy, at least in Judaism. So what makes it holy? And in fact, through the course of our study through the Torah and Talmud, we figured out that in Judaism, for a place to be holy, it needs people. It needs a community. That's what makes a place holy. It's what made Mount Sinai holy. It's what's made the temple in Jerusalem holy. God dwelled there because we, the people, were there. And it's clear throughout Torah and Jewish history, and it's equally true at Ramah. Yes, there's amazing sports, drama, art, and the services are amazing, and many other camp programs. But what sets Ramah apart is the community, the people present. And I could spend many, many hours talking about this, but I wanted to share one example with you this evening. Sorry, Nadav, but I'm going to talk about you for just a moment. I didn't know you were coming when I wrote this. No, it's not bad at all. But this is Nadav's 4th summer at camp. And he's been with many of the same boys in his Eidah and his age group for those 4 years. And you can imagine being a 13-year-old showing up at camp for the first time could be a little bit daunting. The cliques have already formed, but that's not the case at Ramah. There was a new boy in Nadav's bunk, and they were told he was from Tennessee. At least that's what the kids thought. Nadav quickly actually became friendly with this boy, and while, yes, most recently he lived in Tennessee, his home is not Tennessee. His home is Israel. In fact, a kibbutz near the Gaza Strip. His parents and his siblings also happened to be at camp this summer. And his parents and his youngest sibling often sat at the same table that Talia and I ate our meals at every single day, 3 times a day. We became friendly, sharing camp together, talking about our experiences, but never talking about why they were at camp. I knew they were from kibbutz near Yitzchak, which was one of the kibbutzim that was attacked on October 7th. But I never asked them about it. I didn't dare bring it up. They came to the States for a year, immediately after October 7th, for some quiet and recovery for them and for their children. And then Ramah invited them and their family to come for the summer. For these 2 weeks, we sat there, we chatted, and became friendly. And then, literally last Saturday afternoon, the last Shabbat of camp, as lunch was concluding, I asked them, I knew they were going back to Israel, and I said to them, do you have a place to live when you return? Without anywhere to be on Shabbat afternoon, which is unusual at camp. Usually meals end and you got to run to some other activity, even for us staff members. But Shabbat afternoon, we had nowhere to be for hours. And I asked that, what I thought was a benign question. And it turned into one of the longest conversations that began with her telling us, the mother telling us, that they don't want to go home. Sorry, that they do want to go home. They can't wait to go back home, but they can't go back to their kibbutz. Their children are not ready. They can't imagine stepping back foot in the kibbutz that they left on October 8th. One of their children has already said to them, we don't want to serve the army. They've seen too much violence already in their life, and they're scared of what that means to go into the Israeli army. And then, out of nowhere, she's just continued describing by detail their experience of hiding in their safe room for 14 hours on October 7th. Before, the army told them, you can leave, but we can't guarantee you you're safe. And they took the chance, running to the community center on their kibbutz. She described what it was like for 14 hours to keep their kids silent. 3 children, keeping them silent as gunfire and explosions were heard outside of their house. And I remind you that they were awoken at 6 in the morning, rushing to their safe room, so they hadn't eaten breakfast, over 14 hours, but 14 hours from the time of the attack till they were rescued. No food, no water. They were hungry. They were thirsty. And on top of that, her in-laws, her husband's parents, lived on the same kibbutz. And in the middle of the afternoon, they lost contact with them. So for hours, they believed they were victims who were killed. Thankfully, they did survive as well. And finally, she then started talking about her friends who were held hostage, or her friends who were killed, and students that she had at school. We sat there for well over an hour after lunch had ended, and our group was incredibly thankful for her telling her story, sharing it with us. But as I reflected, it was actually equally important for her to open up, to be able to talk in a safe place that she hasn't really had. The same happened for her children, who for 1 month were just campers at Camp Ramah, without any worry. And now I'm happy to say that we have friends, and Nadav has a friend, and we've all experienced this holy place together. I remind you, holiness is not in a location. Holiness is in community. We experience that. You never know who you will meet and what your presence at that moment can mean to the person you're interacting with. I pray that as this family returns home in 2 weeks to Israel, not returning to their kibbutz, they're moving to Beersheba, that they integrate back into the Israeli community. They recover emotionally and thrive as young people and as parents. They've already invited us to be able to share a little bit of their story with them when we're there over winter break. And I look forward to seeing how this experience changes them as a family. Shabbat Shalom.